a team kind of leading the charge in the spring routine. So appreciate it, Taylor. Without further ado, I'll bring up Colonel Marotto. Howard is a 1990 Jackson alum. I know I put in the email he was Mr. Jacksonite. Was a heck of an athlete, played on the football team, academic challenge team, and I'm probably sure there's a million other things that he was involved in, just like you. One of the more impressive things, and maybe you'll bring it up in your speech, but last year on Veterans Day, obviously it was all virtual, and I called up, hey, can we interview you and show it to the kids? And I forget the exact question I asked him, but he brought up this incident that happened overseas, and I knew a little bit about it, and he was telling me about it, and then you Google search it, and there's tons of stuff that pops up. But there was a sad accident, and it's so easy to kind of just skid by and fall on mine, and I don't want to say lie, I don't want to use that word, but he's a guy that went to his superior officer, told the truth, when probably the rest of the group maybe didn't like him. And it just speaks to his character. I mean, he is a man, when I speak with him and see him, very high character, high morals, and obviously it's paying off in his career. So, without further ado, 1990 alum, Colonel Howard Marotto.
I appreciate what happened here. First, real quick, definitely how about Taylor? One thing I'll say, there's a lot of wars we all fight. Right? And some of those you get ribbons for, right? You go away, people give you accolades and say thank you. But there's a lot more wars that we fight internally, whether that's cancer or mental health or whatnot. So I would tell you right now, support Taylor. Those are really the most important things. I'll tell you the other thing is no person can do it alone, right? I can sit up here, thank you for the kind words, Zach. People can say nice things about me, but I didn't do it alone. I had friends. It all started here at Jackson. The foundation was set here. The teachers are still my mentors. Mrs. G, she's here. Coach Michael. And I remember things, right? I saw Mr. Benson. If you had him as a teacher, I remember when he was a senior and I was a freshman. He made me feel so special because he let me play catch with him. It's really amazing how those things stay with you forever. So I would say, volunteer, help out. Those are the things you remember more than any of this or anything else, any of those public accolades you get. So just want to start with that. So thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. Pretty crazy life after I left Jackson. Went to Ohio Wesleyan University. Played football there for a few years, and then realized I was never going to be in the NFL at 5'8", 185, running a 4.8 40. Probably not going to happen. So I said, I gotta get a job or something. And didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there was a Marine Corps recruiter. I liked the uniforms; they looked nice. But this looked like a good choice for a while. I'll do it for a bit. Here I am, 27 years later. 8 years active duty, and then the last 19 in the reserves. But lots of active duty time over that period, and standing with you all here today. And just real quick, I wanted to go over a couple things. I think that you can take from here, and if you don't, that's okay too. Because we all go through this stuff. You got a big day, you got a lot of stuff in your life going on. But a few quick leadership principles, which I think may surprise you a bit. And then a couple emerging technology trends. In my civilian job, I do additive manufacturing or 3D printing. Familiar with that? Mostly in metal, but looking at bioprinting, looking at a lot of advanced polymers in support of commercial entities that do manufacturing, as well as the Department of Defense. You'd probably be amazed at all of the applications for 3D printing, or maybe not. The big problem are the old engineers, not the young people. It's always the freaking old engineers. But that's a whole other story. But real quick, I think 3 things to remember, and this sticks with me, right? I've been in so many speeches, auditoriums like you all. This one was when I was Lieutenant Colonel quite a few years ago, and a gentleman named General Dunford, who you may or may not know, was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a Marine Corps general. He was a 3-star general at the time. I was at a leadership conference. I remember nothing from that conference but this. Nothing. So many generals, the commandant, everybody came and spoke. I remember this, one thing. And I remember it because I saw him in action a couple of years before in the Pentagon. And it taught me that he was, the ghost of General Dunford. He's still alive. you know, that he really validated in life and how you treat people. And what he said was the two most important leadership traits are this: humility and empathy. Humility and empathy. Notice he didn't say bravery, he didn't say courage, he didn't say intelligence, although those are all part of that, right? Those are kind of wrapped up in those two. He said humility and empathy, the two most important leadership traits. This is a 3-star general at the time, became a 4-star, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, combat veteran, decorated, you know, and he went into a little bit of why. But I think I want to step back a bit to how I knew that was the truth of him. So go back in time a little bit. 2009, Major Marotto is on his first tour in the Pentagon, and a major in the Pentagon is like being a freshman in high school. You really just blend into the scenery, right? Everybody's senior to you, and you're just trying to get by. You don't really know what the heck's going on. It's a little scary, and you're in a big building, and there's a lot of new people, and you know, just walking around. So I'm in there working in the Pentagon as a major, and I've got there's a gentleman, special needs. Goodwill, you know, hires a lot of folks. They take out your trash. Dwayne, Coke bottle glasses, but Dwayne's great, positive, funny guy, great sense of humor. Always got a smile on his face, and we're always happy to see him, right? I worked in a classified space, so we'd always have to buzz him in and escort him as he went around and picked up everybody's trash. And we just talk and get to know Dwayne. Big sports fan, Dwayne. Loved football. Hated the Redskins, even though he's in Washington, D.C. Loved the Ravens. I don't know who loves the Ravens, but if you're old enough to remember, you know, they stole the Browns from Cleveland, but I guess we got it back, sort of. But at any rate, so Dwayne, you know, one day I'm gonna, you know, buy Dwayne a pop, right? So to this day, 2008, this is amazing, right? 20-ounce pops were $1. They still are, by the way. I think it's subsidized to keep us all full of energy when we're in the Pentagon. So I go out to get Dwayne a pop, and I'm standing there, in a big hallway, probably a little wider, maybe wider than this. And there's General Dunford, Lieutenant General Dunford, 3 stars on his collar, one of the most powerful generals in the Marine Corps and in the Pentagon. And he's walking down the hall, and he's got a general and a couple colonels with him, guys my age, right? Lots of ribbons too. And he sees Dwayne. Now we're on the other side of the hallway. He doesn't need to say anything to Dwayne. This guy is one of the most powerful generals in America, one of the most powerful generals in the world. And he sees Dwayne, and he's obviously going to a meeting. You don't walk around with a couple colonels and a general in the Pentagon unless you're going somewhere, right? And he stops and he's like, "Hey Dwayne, what's up?" And Dwayne's like, "Hey, what's going on?" He doesn't call him sir, he doesn't call him anything. General Dunford doesn't care, right? He's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Hey Dwayne, the Redskins, they won this weekend, didn't they?" And he's like, "Oh, you know." And then he's like, "And then the Ravens lost," right? So they're sitting there, they're talking trash to each other in the hallway of the Pentagon. Now I can see, and I'm just trying to blend into the pop machine, right? I don't want to be seen, I want to talk to the 3-star general. And I could see the general and the 2 colonels were just angry, just red. You know they were going to a meeting, and they're probably late, right? But General Dunford took the time to say something to Dwayne, who takes his trash out too. Spend a little bit of time with him, you know, acknowledge Dwayne for who he is, that he's an important person too, and, you know, go back and forth with him, nice little exchange, and then go off to his meeting and talk about who knows what terrible thing is going on in the world, right? So that showed both humility and empathy, right? Humility in the fact that, hey, him and Dwayne are just buddies, right? It's just Joe and Dwayne, right? And then empathy because, hey, you know, if you can make someone else's day good, you know, that, you know, will make your day better. You know, the feeling of camaraderie, you know, equality in the human spirit, you know. So fast forward, now he's down there talking to all of us senior leaders in the Marine Corps. This was a leadership conference. All the commanders that were selected, I was lieutenant commander, or lieutenant colonel selected the command. They had all the colonels selected the command. Marine Corps brings all those folks in for 2 weeks and just gives them, you know, leadership by PowerPoint, leadership by speech, and talk about what the burden of command is. And he said those words, and I flashed back to the Pentagon, and I said, yeah, this guy's legit, right? This guy's legit. You might think, well, how does humility and empathy work for me, right, in whatever it is that I do, right? And you might think, but think about your favorite teacher, think about your favorite professor, think about the favorite person you have in your life, whoever that is, your favorite coach. Think about those characteristics and traits that make them who they are. And I'll bet you humility and empathy are part of those. Think about the ideal person you want to be around and the ideal person you want to be. Chances are they are very humble. They treat you like you want to be treated, right? just like they want to be treated. Respect goes both ways. It's not just one way, right? And the empathy piece, right? You know, there's a lot of cliches for what that means. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. You know, try to think like they think. You know, those are incredibly important. Whether that be, you know, of your coworkers, your colleagues, your classmates, whatever it is, why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they acting the way they act? And when you do that, you're more likely to be able to communicate with them and help them. Now, as a military person, you might think, well, how does empathy work with your adversary, right? Oh, it absolutely works with your adversary. In fact, there's no better way to deal with an adversary than to get in their head, right? To be empathetic. It doesn't mean sympathetic. You don't feel sorry for them. By the way, nobody wants to be felt sorry for, right? You don't want to anybody feel sorry for you. You don't want to feel sorry for yourself, right? But you do want people to understand you, right? So that's empathy, right? And you also want to understand your adversary or your opponent in whatever it is you're doing, right? There's nothing wrong with being competitive, just as long as you keep it ethical, right? But how are they approaching the problem? How are they going to go after you? How are they going to go after? How are they going to try to win? What are they going to do, right? So if you think about that, you're going to be much more effective as a leader. You're going to be much more effective in whatever it is you do, both as a friend, as a mentor, as a colleague, and even as an opponent, right? And a lot of things, you don't hear humility and empathy a lot, but I would tell you, humility and empathy will get you through life, right? And I remember when I talked about how we always need somebody else. If you are humble and empathetic, you'll be amazed when you are down how many people come out of the woodwork to help you. People you never thought would. People that you never expected. People that maybe you discounted, but you were still friendly to, like Dwayne, right? But next thing you know, it's Dwayne. It's the Dwaynes of the world. It's someone else who comes and saves you one thing. Pulls that paper out of the trash and said, I thought you might need this. Or says, hey, you look like you need a hug today, right? That might be all you need that day. And it was because you were humble and empathetic that happened. So remember that as leaders as you get out of here. If you just take one thing away, humility and empathy, right? The other big thing is, which frustrates me a lot, and I don't see it very much, unfortunately, at senior levels of the commercial sector or in leadership in the military, is you got to be able to laugh at yourself. You can't take yourself too seriously, even when things are serious, right? Because a sense of humor will get you a long, long way in life. Right? It's amazing, and if you don't have one naturally, you can't create it. But if you do, if you're a funny person, don't be afraid to be funny. But self-deprecating humor usually goes a long way. And I'll give you a quick story about me. Back to officer candidate school, right? I'm in college. I just got to officer candidate school. I got boot camp, 12 weeks. And so I'm in there, first inspection. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. We have a lot of prior enlisted Marines who do know what they're doing, going through officer candidate school. I don't. It's my first inspection. I'm standing there. I'm scared. I'm the most scared I've been in my life at that point. Right? I thought 2-a-days was tough. I thought a lot of things were tough. No. Officer candidate school. There's no going home. There's no getting away. It's 24/7. Somebody's in your face. And so I'm sitting there and I'm getting my uniform ready and I'm tying my boots. I'm almost done. I'm thinking it's good. Well then, one of the drill instructors walks into the barracks, right, into the squad bay, and he says freeze. Well, when a drill instructor says freeze, you freeze, and you don't have to say zero, right? So he says freeze, say zero, and then freeze, candidates freeze. So you're standing there like, oh geez, my one boot's still untied, right? And I'm just like, I've just pushed the I don't know, I'm gonna push the laces back there, and I'm standing at attention. They're coming down to the inspection, right? And so they're coming down to the inspection, and walking down there, and I'm standing there just, I don't know, I'm freaking out. I'm just standing there at attention, and he walks by me, and the candidates across from me, because you're across from each other in the squad bay. Squad bay is a big open area, a bunch of beds, little foot lockers. Have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket? That's where I was at. So anyways, walking down there, and these guys can't help but laugh, right? Because there they are. I got my shoe untied, and it's freaking hilarious. I'm going to do this inspection. So they're like, trying not to laugh. They're standing at attention trying to laugh. And the drill instructor's like, what's so funny, right? And he's basically interrogating them. He's threatening them. He's going to take away he's going to fail them. He's going to take away any time off, liberty they have coming. And finally, one of them just says, Marotto, right? And I'm like, oh, here it comes, right? So I'm standing there, like, oh no, right? And he looks at me, and I'm not saying anything. I'm He looks at me, he looks down, he looks up, he looks back down again, and he sees the laces, right? At this point, I know he sees the laces. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be terrible, right? And he just goes like this. Now, what I know now is that he was laughing. I didn't know that drill instructors had a sense of humor, but I know now he was laughing. He just goes like this. I just thought he was mad. And he just grabbed me. Back when you could do that, right? He just grabs me, and he pulls me out in the middle of the squad bay, and he's like, hey, drill instructor so-and-so. Look at candidate Marotto. And you can see all the candidates trying to look, but not look, right? And he's like, and he's down there twirling my laces. He's like, oh, look at candidate Marotto. He wants to come to inspection barefoot. Oh, that's great. And then you hear the whole squad mate start to chuckle, right? They're trying to hold it in and start laughing. And then I can't help it. I was scared. I hadn't laughed for 2 weeks. I start laughing. Well, at that point, they failed the entire platoon because of me. The entire platoon failed the inspection because of me, because we were laughing. But I couldn't help it. I kept laughing. Right? This was 2 weeks into 12 weeks. You know, it could have went downhill from there. But even though I failed the entire platoon, because I was able to laugh at myself, we were all able to laugh. We got yelled at, we got punished, whatever. That happens, right? But that stayed with me. And after that, I was able to laugh at adversity, laugh at things that happened. And yes, I was going to take my lumps, right? You will take your discipline. You will accept it. But if you can have a sense of humor about it and be okay to laugh at yourself, you know, that things will work out. I mean, it's funny, when I made colonel, I was promoted at the Pentagon at the 9/11 Memorial by Lieutenant General Dana, who was out here recently for Sergeant Danny Patron's memorial. That's another story I can tell you. A young man who graduated from Perry, who was in Afghanistan, killed in Afghanistan when we were all over there. But Lieutenant General Dana promoted me, and he went around and asked, you know, people how they knew me, and one colonel was in officer candidate school with me when that happened. And I asked Paul, I said, Paul, least likely candidate to make colonel. And he's like, undoubtedly you. You were the least likely one. You were always laughing. You just, you know, you were always getting yelled at. But here you are, right? And so I would tell you, being able to laugh at yourself, have a sense of humor, not take yourself so seriously, even when you think this is the most serious thing going on in your life, sense of humor goes so far in life, right? One more quick story, and then I'll open it up to questions. So James Mattis, General Mattis, a lot of you heard about him, Mad Dog Mattis, St. Mattis to many Marines, Secretary of Defense, Marine Four-Star General, pretty incredible warrior and philosopher. You know, he kind of brought up a story about this too. He's very, very well known for, as a general, getting out to the front lines and being in combat. And he said he was in Iraq, so 5, this was bad times in Iraq, and he rolls up on this firefight, right? Actively people shooting at each other, right? And, you know, we're fighting that time off the fundamentalists of Al-Qaeda, and it's, you know, it's not going well, right? The fight wasn't going well at the time in Al-Anbar province. But General Mattis rolls up, and there's a firefight, active firefight going on. And this is crazy. Generals don't do this, but General Mattis does. And he rolls up there, and there's a sergeant in charge. You know how old a sergeant is? Not much older than you. 22, 23 years old, leading a firefight in Afghanistan, or in Iraq. And he walks up, and he said, General Mattis did this. I asked him the stupidest question you can ever ask anybody engaged in active firefight, engaged in combat. He's like, I walked up and he said, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, that's a great question. Like, oh, I'm just engaged in a firefight, life and death, we're shooting people, they're shooting us. He's like, hey, how's it going? And the Marine turns to him as he's got his rifle pointed down range, and he's shooting, and he's like, well, it's going great, sir. And he's like, really? He's like, yeah, we're putting the fun back in fundamentals. Right? So this guy's engaged in active firefight. He's leading Marines, and he still can make a joke. Right? He can still laugh about the terrible situation. So I just say that, always be able to laugh at yourself, look for the humor in things, and share that humor, and it'll get you a long way in life, along with humility and empathy. So with that, I got one more quick thing. You guys are going out in the real world here soon, going to college and do that stuff. 3 quick trends in emerging technology that I see that if you're looking to do in a career, things to think about. AI and machine learning, not going away, only getting bigger. True AI won't be around until quantum mechanics, quantum physics. You can do some research on that. It's machine learning until then. Until machines can think like us, your brain can do 100 things at once. A computer cannot. It can do 100 things very fast, but it has to do them sequentially. Your brain's thinking about 10 things right now, and you don't even know it. That's quantum, right? Multiple things at once. Ones and zeros it's the same thing at the same time. So we won't get true AI till that, machine learning till then. but that's absolutely the future. You got to figure it out, embrace it, right? It's going to be part of everything. 2, advanced manufacturing. I talked about 3D printing. It's what I do. You know, as we get more, think about mass customization. 3D printing will allow mass customization. We'll be able to make things we've never been able to make before. Organs through 3D printing, parts we've never made, materials we've never really used or not in that way. And by the way, you can put a factory in any warehouse. You can put a factory in a school or in this room. That is the future, so be aware of that. And then the third thing is robotics or unmanned systems. As much as we may fear those things, you know, my daughter says that I'm trying to create Skynet, and I said, yeah, but this time Skynet will win. If you know anything about Terminator, I don't like to lose. So even if I create bad robots, we're going to win. But at any rate, that's going to happen, right? So we got to figure that stuff out. And the skilled trades are so critical. You know, when I was going through Jackson, it was like, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, got to go to college, right? And so we all went to college. Most of us went to college. But you know, I will tell you, the trade school is absolutely incredible right now. And the skilled trades are doing incredible things and making great money. My brother's a machinist, he's making over 100 grand a year working at Timken right here. Right? So you can make good money doing the skilled trades and really enjoy what you do. If you like being hands-on, I would highly encourage you to do something in the skilled trades. Don't be so obsessed that you have to go to a 4-year institution, right? So think about those things. Those are the emerging trends. I'm seeing that all the time. Mark my words, everything will be focused on those 3 things here real soon, if they really already are in many ways right now. So with that, I know I went very quick because we only got a little bit of time. We got a few minutes here. Questions? Anything? Anything at all? Don't be scared. I know. Nobody said the caffeine yet. I didn't see any Starbucks or anything.
Questions? I guess I got one thing
Yeah.
to kind of touch on, Howie. How would you kind of summarize how Jackson High School prepared you for, I mean, everything that you've accomplished?
Yeah, real quick. So discipline, right? What I always tell my son is, you know, self-discipline is important. Yeah, and you got discipline from someone else here a lot. I did, certainly, right? But I always tell my son, discipline yourself before others discipline you. Self-discipline. So I learned that here. Sometimes I had to learn it through being disciplined, right? But what I learned was, if I discipline myself, so I don't have to have anybody else do it, that's critical, right? Discipline. Being a free thinker and being able to speak your mind, but speak it honestly with tact. Never be a jerk, but always be honest, right? Learn how to say things in the right way. I learned at Jackson that I could say a lot of things if I said it the right way, right? If I raised my hand, I was respectful, and I asked a question, not to put anybody on the spot, but a legitimate question, like, I don't understand this. Like, why, right? You might hear about the 5 whys. Before that was a book or, you know, big thing. I learned about that here. And I asked why a lot, right? So ask questions, but do it tactfully and do it the right way. I learned that here too. And then just the importance of hands-on, and I don't mean literally, but just engaged leadership. And teachers knew us, right? Teachers knew us. You're supposed to know your Marines, know your people, know the people around you, know what makes them tick. Back to the empathy, understand them. Know where, first thing I ask people, where are you from and what do you do? Tell me about yourself, tell me about your family. And in those questions, I know that person. I mean, there's more to that person than that, but I already know a lot right there, right? So I learned, and then you can be an engaged friend, leader, colleague, whatever, right? So those 3 things, I learned that from here. And don't forget about the little things. Remember that story I told you about Mr. Benson, right? I can tell you a lot of stories about Mrs. G. She won't let me tell you half. I'm just kidding. You know, or about some of the coaches in football. But they knew me. They knew Howie Marotto, right? And I knew them. And I think, you know, that's important. So be engaged, get to know people, and get to understand them and be empathetic. So I think those are the things that I learned while I was here that have served me the rest of my life. For sure. Yeah.
Anything else?
I'll stick around for a minute or two if you've got time, and you can ask me separately or whatever.
All right, how about a round of applause? Obviously, very impressive guy. Appreciate you guys coming out. I know those sign-out sheets are floating around. If you could bring those down here. And then again, if you're looking to help out and volunteer in the spring with our cancer game, we certainly will be glad to take you as a volunteer. I'll put the donuts out on that first table. Have a good rest of your day and a good week. Thank you.